talk about some of the primary organ affinities of this plant. Well, first and foremost, it has a really nice affinity for the liver and the gallbladder. This is indicated by the bitterness of the plant, right? So bitter tasting things generally do something in the liver and gallbladder, and the extent of that something in the liver and gallbladder is usually pretty dependent on the extent of its bitterness, right? So with burdock here, what we find is that the bitterness is actually kind of mild. But when you couple it with the oiliness, right? Remember that the gallbladder especially, very, very sensitive to oils, the liver very sensitive to oils. I mean, that's its job in the gallbladder, right? Is to secrete bile to enhance in the emulsification and therefore digestion and absorption of fats and oils. And so the bitterness coupled with the oiliness of burdock, in my opinion, gives it a very unique and kind of different action on the liver and the gallbladder. So we see a good affinity there. It has an affinity for the digestive system as well. Of course, that's going to be, you know, associated with its slight bitterness and influence on the liver and gallbladder. But here we also see the sweetness in burdock having a very interesting effect on digestion, because burdock is actually one of the most abundantly rich plants, the root, in inulin. Inulin is a prebiotic starch that essentially feeds all the beneficial flora in the digestive system. I think it's somewhere around like 35–40% inulin in burdock root, like super duper rich. So it does have these polysaccharides present in it. Those are going to be responsible for that sweet taste. And of course, that's going to just really help to restore digestive functioning through its prebiotic property. So definitely, yeah, digestive system, liver, gallbladder. And then from the liver, we see it kind of branching out from there and influencing the blood. So I think the term blood, when it's used, especially in the context of traditional herbalism, is a lot more than just like the blood flowing through our veins and arteries. I think a better way of thinking it would be more thinking of it in terms of like the extracellular fluids, right? Like all of the fluids that bathe the cells, which those fluids can be very nutrient rich, those fluids can be very toxin rich, right? And so, yeah, extracellular fluid, it's like, you know, you have all the blood flowing through the vasculature, getting to the capillary beds. All of the nutrients and oxygen is being squeezed out of those capillary beds. It enters the extracellular fluid, whereby the cells absorb all of the things that it needs to absorb. And that's kind of the anabolic side, right? The getting nutrition into the cell. Then you have the more catabolic side, right? Where the cell, I don't know why I put that in quotes, but then the cell is excreting waste products, right? It's using nutrients, it's processing them. Then there's waste products. It sends it out of the cell, enters the extracellular fluid, and then is picked up by, you know, lymphatics and venous circulation, brought to the liver to metabolize and process, or kidneys to be excreted, and right, those waste products are excreted from the body. And we might think of that as, you know, kind of foundations of metabolism. So I like to think of that in terms of when I'm thinking of blood, right? When you hear the term like blood purifiers, it's kind of the greater blood is the way I would think of it, which is kind of inclusive of the extracellular fluids. Oftentimes that's going to include the lymphatics, because let's face it, what does the lymphatics do, or what do the lymphatics do? It purifies the blood, right? So so I just wanted to explain that, because when especially if you're reading old books and you see the word blood, I think it's good to kind of think of it in this slightly greater context of like what that means. So burdock definitely has an affinity for the blood, for the extracellular fluids, for the lymphatics, and then by reflex, the skin. So this is one of our classic skin remedies, right? And I don't really think of it so much as like a topical skin remedy. It's more influencing the skin because it's affecting these deeper organs in the body, right? It's helping with a lot of chronic skin issues because of what it's doing in the GI, because of what it's doing in the liver, because of what it's doing in the blood and the extracellular and the lymphatics, right? So the skin is like the result affinity of these other, what I consider like a little bit more important affinities to remember about this plant. And then it's going to influence the kidneys, right? And we see burdock root definitely affects the kidneys. From what I understand about the seed of burdock is that the seed has a little bit of a stronger affinity for the kidneys than the root does. And also from my understanding that the seed also has a little bit more of a pungent or diffusive nature to it. And so it actually will get out to the skin a little bit better, has a little bit of a stronger affinity for the skin actually than burdock root. Burdock root definitely affects the skin, but like I said, it's because of its influence on those deeper organs. The seed is actually considered a diaphoretic, so it's going to actually help with, you know, promoting some sweating, and will get actually to the skin a little bit more directly in and of itself. But both definitely do have an influence on the kidneys as well. So think of that, like that's a lot of areas of the body. We're talking like essentially some of the deepest vital organs in the body, but what do all these organs and systems and tissues have in common? They're associated with detoxification, right? The liver, the kidneys, extracellular fluid, blood, lymphatics, skin. These are channels and organs of elimination.